All right, hello everyone. This is Sir Adrian here, back to film the random events in our current game we're having, Operation Bersaglieri, for the spring of 1915 that we're going into. So before I get to the random events, one thing I want to point out is that starting now in the spring of 1915 is when the German Empire, played by MP7, the British Empire, played by Sepskulian, as well as the French Republic, played by Hybrid, are going to have to start doing their mandatory offensives, and that until the end of the game, or at least end of World War I. We're not playing with the variable ending, which I think that's what this is, although we will potentially go past 1918 due to the Russian Revolution. But yeah, the mandatory offensives. So the three of you definitely make sure you read up on that and ask any questions. It's all described in each of your national reference sheets. But essentially the way it works is that each turn, or once per year, starting in 1915, the Germans, French, and British are going to have to do an attack with at least 6 infantry units into either German home territory or Belgium. So, for example, Germany could attack into Belgium with 6 infantry. That would count. Or if Belgium was German occupied, France or the British could attack with 6 infantry. So for now, as things stand, it would just be attacks from Bavaria into Lorraine or from Lorraine into Bavaria. Both the British, or the Germans and French are set for that. France has quite a few units in there. I just have them all in the task force marker over here. But Seb Scullion as the British, however, does not have a whole lot of units yet. So he still has a bit of time, but he's going to have to start getting units over into France. And actually, it depends. Based on how things are currently set up, he might not be able to do his mandatory offensive in 1915. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, that's something to consider going forward because there are penalties for not completing that. So going into the first turn in 1916, if that's not completed, he's not going to get to do any diplomacy or collect wartime income, which he doesn't have yet, but he could hit that this turn. So again, definitely something to think about going forward. And aside from that, there's nothing else we have to do, no alignments. Italy's going to be entering the war next turn, so at the random events at the end of this current turn, we'll go ahead and I'll roll for that. But in terms of the fighters, we don't have to worry about any of that yet because the next stage of fighters are 1916 stage fighters. There is no 1915 fighters, and the only one who has 1916 fighters would be the German Empire. Yeah, so we'll leave that at that for now, but when we get into the spring of 1916 for the random events for that turn, I'll go over that again in a bit more detail in terms of fighters and what happens with any fighters that are on the board. But aside from that, we're going to go ahead and roll for the East. Pardon the crumpled up page. So we'll see what we get. And we get a 2. So 2 for the spring 1915 East is Japanese influence. So increase the USA if Japan is allied. So they are. Diplomacy by 1 stage in Peru and 1 other Central or South American nation with a Pacific minor or major naval facility. So, Peru, which I believe is this one. Yep. So Peru is going to go to stage 1. And aside from that, another with a Pacific major or minor naval facility. Yeah, and one other Central or South American nation with a Pacific minor or major naval facility. So our options would either be Chile or... Actually, I think that's about it, pretty much. Yeah, that should be about it. Yeah, Central America is a strict neutral, so we're not going to be able to do that. Yeah, so actually Chile is the only other option. So Chile is currently up the German track, +1 IPP. So that's going to go down to ports open. So the Germans are going to lose that +1 IPP in trade that they had with the Chileans due to that random event. So there we go. So that's sorted. Just make sure that's everything. Yep, that's everything. So now we'll do the spring 1915 West. And we got a 2 again as well. So we got British munitions shortage. So all British artillery are -1 attack and defense this turn. This stacks with terrain modifiers, but units never attack at less than a 1. So Seb-Scullion on the British turn in the spring of 1915. That's something you'll have to keep in mind, that any attacks you do with any of your artillery are going to be at -1, as well as any defense you're doing. And once again, that stacks with the terrain modifiers. However, you do advance 1 stage in improved factories technology. So the British have completed improved factories. So that's it for the random events. We'll hand things off to MP7 to get the German turn started, once again for the spring of 1915. And we will see you all back here again shortly.